didn't get himself to that side where people wanted to talk with him. So I promise you that if the guy reached out and communicated with anybody after he left their house, they responded right away. Now, they didn't have email back then, but they called him back right away. So we condition ourselves to learn about these products, and we tend to regurgitate them. We tend to just bleh on people when we see them. And it's really hard, because here's the thing. If it's the 25th of the month, and you haven't paid your mortgage yet, and I meet Angela, and I'm an insurance salesperson, well, what's my mindset? My mindset is, hey, I got to put food on the table. I got to pay my rent, otherwise or my mortgage, I'm going to lose my house. Well, how do I have a conversation with her about her trip to Washington, D.C.? And do I really want to hear her talk about what she did? Do I have time? Or do I want to find out from Angela, hey, are you a potential customer? Are we going to do some business here? Or am I moving on to Richard over here? Right? You know? Right? Am I moving on to somebody else? And that's the problem, is that we kind of get into that mindset. And then the agenda becomes, I'm talking to Angela and I turn everything back into life insurance. Oh, well, you'd realize that you should really secure yourself, because whatever it is, I mean, we all know it. I was talking with Frank, I think I saw him back, there's Frank. I was talking with Frank yesterday, and he was mentioning that he's now taking a particular health supplement. And that he had gone to a couple of different places, and these people, his words were, they attacked him, right? They came in and they attacked him. But there was one individual that didn't do that at all. Well, I didn't ask him, but I don't have to ask him how that person interacted. They didn't attack him, right? They just kind of talked to him about who he was, what was going on. And his experience was, he walked away thinking, that's a positive experience. When that gentleman, or woman, I didn't find out, male or female, when that person contacts me, he's going to respond back. These people that attacked him, they're on the left side. That email is not going to, that email or voicemail isn't going to get responded to. So again, it's not saying don't talk about what you, but understand that we all want to talk about ourselves. We're all interested about us. So if I want to talk to you about my trip to Washington, D.C., then let me talk about my trip to Washington, D.C. If I want to talk about something I did in my office or my work or my kids or something, let me talk about that, because when I'm talking about things that interest me, I feel good. Like the endorphins in me are, I actually feel good. I'm not saying I enjoy I feel good about what it is that I'm saying. So what I want to give you is a technique to help you facilitate this. Because it took me about 10 years. So I was somewhere in my early 30s before I really got it. Because it's kind of hard to not want the money to go on the trips and the fun and this and that, and you're talking to someone and you're like a dog or like a wolf seeing a piece of steak, right? It's kind of hard not to do that. It's a little difficult. So I want to give you a technique to use to kind of help facilitate this. And it's got 4 main components. So the first component is asking an open-ended question. And maybe not so much a how are you doing today kind of open-ended question, but more of, how about why it is you're doing what you do? Why are you in the industry you're in? What are you doing? They're going to talk about some things in there. Okay? And the second part of this is probably the hardest part, is shut up and listen. Don't talk. Okay, let them talk. Okay, the third component is do not, absolutely do not input something to what they are saying. For example, if Angela's talking about her trip to Washington, D.C., and she's talking about the Smithsonian. Well, first of all, let me back up. We think at 450 words a minute. We speak at about 150 words a minute. So that means as I'm talking to you right now, and I'm going a little slower because I'm speaking, so I'm speaking a little slower, I'm probably about 120. Well, that gives you guys a lot of words per minute to wander off and do whatever you're doing. And I don't know what you guys are doing, but stop. But the point is, when you're talking to someone, that's the way it works. So think about it like this. If I'm talking about my trip to Washington, D.C., and I can only get one thing out at a time, and I've got in my head my whole trip, right, because the recorder up here, I've got 8 things that are up here, and they're coming down the chute. And I'm on number 2, and I'm talking about the Smithsonian. And I'm feeling good about it because I'm remembering it, and my body's feeling good about it, and how much time I had, because in my mind I'm visualizing it. And then you say, oh yeah, well I really like the Aerosmith, and I got to stop. Got to stop all those other ones that are coming down the chute. Spotlight's on me, I'm feeling good. Now I got to take the spotlight off of me, and I got to put it on Angela, or whoever I'm talking to, and I got to put it on, because they're now talking about their thing that's relevant to what we're talking about, right? It's relevant, it's the same. But on the balance sheet, which would be better? That thing that we can relate to, or me feeling good that I'm talking to you and reliving all of that and the good things that I'm going to take away from the conversation that I have, which maybe is a half hour to an hour long, and I'll walk away thinking, wow, I really enjoyed talking to Angela. Meanwhile, I don't know anything about her. All I did was talk about myself, but I felt good. So when someone is talking about something, and we all do it. The other day I was talking to a gentleman, and he was riding motorcycles, and I used to race motorcycles. So in my head, I caught myself. I was about to say, oh, why? And I had to stop it, because what happens at the minute that you think about what you're going to say? You stop listening to the other person. So for those 2, maybe 3 seconds where you're reliving that in your head or thinking about how you're going to, you're waiting for them just to take a breath so you can get in there. Right? You've seen it. Some of us start talking before the person even stops. It's like you're telling them, right? Right? We've done it. You see them. You can see that they're about ready to say something, and then you almost feel bad. Like, am I being rude because I'm not letting them say what they're going to say? But I'm talking about, no, I'm talking, damn it, you shut up. But we do that. I see it all the time, and I had to stop it. So don't input anything in at all. Do not, let the horse run. Let them say whatever they're going to say until they're done. And if that's a half hour, that's even better. If it's an hour, it's even better. Because that means for 1 hour, they felt great. Okay, the fourth component of it is ask a follow-up question. But the follow-up question needs to be on something that they just talked about. This does several things. Number one, it forces you, because remember, your mindset controls everything from your body language, everything, and your agenda. See, if your agenda is to put in something about what they're talking about so you can be relevant, well, then that changes what's going on. And we're talking about the subconscious here. Their subconscious picks up on this. Maybe not their conscious mind, but their subconscious, which is also always on, always recording, always looking, always involved, kind of senses it, right? It gives it a vibe. So they may walk away thinking, why? But so why even give that an opportunity to be there? So what you want to do is you want to ask a follow-up question, because number one, it shows that you're interested. And how many people can truly say nowadays when they go out that people really listen to what they're saying, and then continue to ask them about what they're talking about and not put the spotlight on them about their similar trip to another place, maybe even better, right? Oh, I'll one up you. I went to Italy. Right? So how many times does that not happen? Right? He rode motorcycles. Well, I raced. Well, isn't that kind of a one-up? I mean, I'm not joking. Because when I was younger, that was my one-up. Because I was a young kid with an ego. So, you just ride motorcycles. I went around the track at 160 miles an hour. You're nothing. But it was, I'm going to admit it, I did do that. So, and people tend, so don't even give yourself the opportunity to let the other person perceive it that way. So ask them follow-up questions about what they did, and then ask another follow-up question. And then another follow-up question. And pretty soon, you're talking for 1 minute to 5 or 10 or 20 or 30. And they're walking away from that interaction with you, and they are absolutely happy. Because they got to bloviate about themselves, they got to talk about what they wanted to talk about, you were showing interest, you gave them permission to talk about what they wanted to talk about. Because you asked them a follow-up question, which then that person says, oh wow, this person's actually interested in what I have to say. So that next time, right, that filling up that first box, they walk away going, wow, I really like that guy. Right? Mel says, hey, Lewis is a nice guy. All I did was ask me about myself, which is what I was hoping you were doing after we talked this last, right? No?
So what I heard.
But that's my point. They're filling up that big box. Why don't you let them fill that box up with, well, I really enjoyed talking with that person. So, again, open-ended question, right? First thing is, and you'll play with that open-ended question and kind of work it. And again, it's not a, how are you doing today? Then you shut up and you listen. You don't say anything at all. You might say, oh, well, that's fantastic. Hey, that's great, whatever. But be sincere. Always be sincere. So if it's not sincere, just don't say it. Then you want to go ahead and never, I don't know how to impress upon this, never add something to anything that they're saying, because you are stopping them from the stuff that's coming down the pike, because they're thinking at 450 words. So they know what they're going to tell you, and they can only talk at about 150. And one thing at a time, more stuff's coming. And you're stopping that. And then ask follow-up question, and continue follow-up question. And I promise you that if you do this technique, even if it's the 25th of the month, it will get your mind out of the mindset of wanting to sell somebody something and into the mindset of making them feel good about their first or second or third or fourth or fifth interaction with you. So then when it comes time to say, hey, you know, I have this weight loss product, I've got this service, whether it was a prepaid legal, whatever it is, now you are a friend that is going to advise them as opposed to somebody that's going to sell them something, and it gets you on the right side. So does anybody have any questions on the concept of the mindset and doing that? Good deal. Yeah. Go.
I kind of do. So what if everybody in this room takes this technique, I sit down with Dusty and I start doing it. Dusty sit with me, we're going to reach an impasse, right?
Well, this is the way that works. Okay. If you ask somebody something, remember, we 450 words a minute, right? So you're going to ask him a question, he's going to have this stuff, and it's going to come out. As long as you let the horse run, you let him talk about what it is that he wants to talk about, that's fine, because he has positive feelings about it. He got it all out. He got to say what he wanted to say. Now he's kind of done, right? He's done with it. Now you're not done with it? You want to keep going? Well, then you won't stop talking. It'll keep coming down the road. And then the whole thing still fits because she'll ask a follow-up question. But what happens is that once you get done with it, now it's okay, because now that's a conversation back and forth. Now it's okay for Jillian to, you didn't stop anything for her to put something into it. You got to completely get everything out that you wanted to say. And you understand that if you're asking follow-up questions, right, you know, don't wait, again, you took a breath, and you get in there, right? I'm not talking that. But if you ask a follow-up question, what he would have to do to stop you from doing that is he would have to end his sentence and then go right into something for you, and that's just not the way the conversation works, right? We don't work like that. We stop talking for a second, and then you would come in, well, hey, what part of Smithsonian was your favorite part, right? Then he starts talking again. Why was that your favorite part? Well, what didn't you like? I mean, the way a conversation flow goes, basically, he who asks the question first kind of wins on that one. So you're really not going to have dual. But as long as you let the person get it out, as long as you let that horse run, then it's okay to talk about that. But just remember that you can always turn it from what you're saying into somebody else. So put the spotlight on the other person. And that is what Successful Thinkers is, right? Know, like, and trust. I mean, we talk about that concept. It's really based around that concept. And that concept is based around how to win friends and influence people. It really is. Charles.
Let's talk about the first, because you got that first 30 seconds where you're going to come in. What's the procedure you use? How do you get the first introduction? How do you get engaged with the person?
Okay, good point. Good question. There are several things that you can talk about with somebody where they're going to have some passion involved. That is going to be family, what they've done, their occupation, politics, religion. Well, they always say never talk about politics or religion, right? So you've got occupation, their family,
recreation,
or their passion, right? Whatever their particular passion is. But sometimes, for a lot of us, our passion is what we do in our occupation. So what I tend to do is I tend to say, hey, you know, what brings you here? What is it that you do? And then they start talking about whatever their product, their service, their business. Usually here at Successful Thinkers, they don't talk about their product or service, they talk about what their field is. And then I ask questions about that. Hey, so why is it that you're in that field? Why, of all the ones that you have out there, why did you choose that? And that's an open-ended question. And you're going to get personal information from that, because they're going to either say, you know, family thing, it's my passion, I enjoy it, I moved, whatever it is, and then there's follow-up questions you ask with that. And then another follow-up question, and another follow-up question. And one other thing, if you continue to do follow-up questions, what you'll notice is you get very personal very quickly. Within 15, 20 minutes, and if you're asking follow-up questions, that person is going to tell you personal information. And you're going to separate yourself from the pack of the other people, because it's going to be on a more personal connection, and that's what you want, is that personal connection. Any other? Go ahead.
Can you